Hello everyone, this is Paul Villalobos, President of Tech Mobile Reviews. Today we're doing a full review on the HTC One M8. So let's get right into the design of the HTC One M8. The M8 is absolutely stunning. No words right now can describe how great the M8 really feels. It's wonderful. And I encourage you to go to the nearest electronics store near you that has the M8 and see it for yourself. Hold it. And you'll see just how great the design on the M8 really is. But as of right now, the M8 is truly one of the best designed smartphones out there in the market. And I'm even including the iPhone 5S in that pack. The M8 looks and feels that great. From the chamfered edges to the glistening silver back, the M8 screams for attention. And last year's HTC One was also quite stunning itself. And in this year's One M8, we see some minor improvements to the design, including the addition of even more metal than last year's One device. HTC got rid of the plastic strips that ran down the sides of last year's HTC One and are now metal here on the M8, giving the One M8 a unibody and seamless feel to the hand. Now, most reviewers note that they wish the HTC left the plastic from the M7 on the M8, as the additional metal here on the M8 makes it slippery to hold at times. And to an extent, I did find it that the M8 was a little slippery to hold, but it was nothing too extreme. Now, what the main design flaw to the M8 and this otherwise perfect design is the power button placement, which is still at the top. Now, I wish HTC placed it on one of the sides instead, as the M8 is a fairly tall device, and getting to that power button at times can be tricky. But as a whole, HTC nailed it on the design, and it's the best smartphone design I've ever seen, period. Now, of course, there's more to this hardware that makes the M8 even more special, and those are the boom sound speakers that are found on the front. Those are dual speakers with built-in amplifiers, and they are so loud and so crisp that they are just absolutely the best speakers on the phone right now in the market. If you thought last year's HTC One was loud enough, the M8 is 25% more louder. It's absolutely incredible. Take a listen for yourself. Now we move next to the display on the M8, which is now 5 inches versus the 4.7-inch display that we saw on last year's HTC One. Now the 5-inch screen has a 1080p HD Super LCD 3 display packing 441 pixels per inch, and the display is gorgeous. Now compared to other displays, most notably the Super AMOLED displays, the Super LCD 3 panel found on the M8 is crisp, super accurate, and just plain lovely. Now, while it may not have that pop or saturation that is on the Super AMOLED displays, colors, images, and videos looked more true to life here than on the other displays that are on the market. Now, viewing angles on the M8 were superb as well, as the colors and text stayed in place even at a far angle. And the M8 also gets very bright, so I found it very easy to read even in direct sunlight. Overall, the display is just one of the best on the market, and you won't find any problems whatsoever here on the M8's display. Now to the performance on the HTC One M8, and I've said it in past reviews before that there simply isn't really any need for a performance category when it comes to phones, especially phones like these. And this is even more true as the M8 features the latest Snapdragon 801 quad-core processor, which is clocked at 2.3 GHz. Now, coupled with 2 GB of RAM, the M8 flies on by without any hiccups or freezes whatsoever. Games like Asphalt 8 played seamlessly here on the M8, and multitasking and internet browsing performed very well. And even though it has a skin on top, it by no means hinders the performance on the M8, with speeds that rival or are equivalent to even pure stock Nexus devices. Everything went smoothly, day-to-day tasks performed without a hitch, everything was just flying on by with speeds that are just fantastic. Now, the battery life on the M8 was also great. Now, here powering the M8 is a 2600 milliamp hour battery, which might not seem much at first glance, but thanks to power saving modes that HTC built into the M8 just sips through the battery all day long. And even with heavy usage, you can expect to get a full day and maybe then some on here on the M8. Now, those who are more moderate or less power junkies like me, you can expect at least a day and a half to 2 full days of use, which is just great for those who love to use their phone all day long. Now we move next to the camera on the phone, which has been stirring quite the debate amongst tech reviewers and consumers alike. Now, let's get this out of the way. The HTC One M8 has a 4 megapixel ultra pixel rear camera with its secondary camera only used for depth information. Now, it is 4 megapixels. That's the bottom line. And it's an ultra pixel camera because the individual pixels are doubled in size or are bigger than traditional higher megapixel phones, which means technically, in theory, you'll get better photos in low light conditions. But there is sacrifice, which we'll get into in a bit. But the camera interface here on the M8 is absolutely simple. You can see you have all your modes right in one place, from selfie to dual capture to the panorama. I mean, everything is right there, all simple and just easy to use and to go in and out of different modes. And here's the dual capture right here. It has the front-facing camera and the rear camera going at the same time. You might remember this from some Samsung Galaxy devices. Of course, we have our video, which records in 1080p HD, and we have the Pan 360, which is like that panoramic 360 that we found on the Nexus 5 devices and even on the Galaxy S5. You can take a 360 panoramic shot of whatever is around you. And of course, we have the HTC Zoe right here, just so fun to play with at times. Take 3 seconds or more of Zoe's here on the phone. And of course, back to the camera. Now, back to the whole debate thing. We took the HTC One M8 to the LA Arboretum in Arcadia, California, and it took some great pictures. But here is where it takes a little bit of a downturn. The HTC One M8 didn't do quite well when we were trying to zoom in or zoom in closer to photos. That's when the photos started to look a little bit blurry. Taking pictures or cropping them did have a little bit of a disadvantage due to the 4 megapixel count. It's just not enough megapixels to actually work with when it comes to zooming in and cropping photos. And it did do well in low light conditions. I give the HTC One M8 credit for that. And some of our pictures did come out really quite well, in which you will see we have a full gallery in our full review, where the link is in the description down below. Now, the secondary camera comes into play right here, which is used for depth information so you can refocus after the shot. So you can go into the gallery and you can actually take a picture and refocus after you took that shot. So it blurs out the background or whatever you're trying to focus in. And you can see in our demonstration right here, we focus in on the flower and everything in the background turns blurry. And if we do it in the background, then the flower becomes blurry. So it creates some nice visual effects, bokeh effects that are usually found on DSLR cameras, but are here on the HTC One M8. I don't know how useful it is. It's certainly a nice feature to have. Is it necessary? Maybe not. I would have preferred more of a higher megapixel count on the camera, if you ask me, but it's there for those who want to use it. It's certainly a nice effect to add onto pictures and to photos. We also have some additional effects as well, such as foregrounder and seasons, which are also utilizing the secondary camera for the depth information. And we're going to show you an example right now of the foregrounder. It's just some visual effects right here, such as the sketch. It sketches the background and keeps the foreground in focus. Then we also have zoom blur, cartoon, and colorize. These are just some nice add-ons that utilize the secondary camera for the depth information. Some great Instagram moments that you can capture with these, I bet, yeah. And of course, you have seasons, which is more of a dynamic effect. It has moving flowers, moving dandelions, maple leaves, and snow. Just displaying the seasons makes the pictures come to life almost. Very nice touch. And then we also have 3D Dimension Plus, which is kind of like that parallax feature that you find on the iOS 7 devices. You can just move around the phone and your picture is like in a 3D image. It looks really cool. Again, I don't know how useful or when this will come into play in real life, but it's certainly a nice trick to show off to friends. And as a whole, the HTC One camera does a really good job at trying to take some really good photos. It does take them well in low light conditions, I give it that. But zooming in and for outdoor photos, it kind of lags behind the rest of the pack, such as the Galaxy S5, which has a 16 megapixel camera, and that takes some fantastic shots. So the camera is livable and doable, but it's certainly not the best, and we wish we could have seen a little bit more of an effort to try and make the camera better this year than on making it the same as last year's HTC One device. Last but not least, we have the software of the HTC One M8, and it runs Android 4.4 KitKat if you're all about having the latest operating system. It does have the latest KitKat right on board here with the HTC One M8, but it also features a new version of Sense 6 right on top of Android, and I have to say, HTC is really doing a wonderful job at keeping the skins and making sure they don't bloat down the phone. This version of Sense is like the simplest yet, and it's near to stock Android to tell you the truth. It doesn't bear down the phone. It doesn't cause the phone to lag or anything like some skins have the tendency to do. I'm looking at you, Samsung. But yes, the Sense 6 is simple, and everything about Sense 6 is just some additional features that are actually pretty useful, such as Blink Feed, for example. Blink Feed is like a news feed aggregator that takes in your social feeds, various news outlets like technology and um, news from ABC or CNN. You can put that on Blink Feed. It has basically all your news and your social right there in one area. Again, you can take Blink Feed away now, which is great. On the previous HTC One, you couldn't take Blink Feed away, and that's what was kind of a deal breaker for some. But yes, Blink Feed you can take away right here on the M8, but it's certainly a very useful tool. At least I found it very useful. Definitely a nice time waster at times to read some articles or find all your posts right there on one page. But yeah, that Blink Feed is right there. It's improved. It also works with Fitbit now, and to show your daily goals and your highlights of that day. So that's pretty cool as well. Now, Sense 6 also features some personalization tools. As we all know, HTC has a lot of themes and color personalization add-ons that you could do here on the M8. Sense 6 is very bare bones, very simple, and I love what HTC is doing with the more flatter, more sleeker design elements that are found in the settings menu. We are proud to say, on behalf of Tech Mobile Reviews, that the HTC One M8 got a score of 9.4 out of 10, the highest score that we have ever given on a smartphone in the Tech Mobile Reviews website. You can see the breakdown of that score on our website. The link to our full review, our full written review, is in the description below. In the end, if you're looking for a well-made, well-designed smartphone, look no further. The HTC One M8 is for you.